How would we what?
How were you deciding for the three of you? So
Uh, well, it was a choice between the Hilton or the no. A lot of days we just plopped down in the grass right there. Um, there were road pullouts. As I mentioned, sometimes we met people and they invited us to stay over, which was cool. But no, we did not plan at all. You know, you get to the end of the day, can we make another? There was one spot. There was one spot we figured we could make 20 more miles after dark. The moon was out. It was a yellow moon. That's in the book too. This particular spot. It's getting into Colorado, and we rode in the dark, and it was that part of that moment was one of the most mystical moments in the book. So,
I take it you had lights on the bike.
you know, we didn't.
Oh.
I think there were reflectors on the back of the pedals, but we didn't plan to ride at night. It's just when you're in the middle of nowhere and there are no cars on the road, and the moon is big and bright. We just did it. You know, again, there was so much of this that wasn't planned.
I have a question for you.
Kathy, go ahead.
So, without spoiling the book, you said that Susie was the
Hero.
hero of the book. Can you address why you put that?
Yes, thank you. So Susie was the hero. Is the hero of the book. In our writing group, this was brought up, right, Rose? Susie was. So I was 24. Rusty was 22. Susie was 19. She had never been away from home before. As I said, she didn't know how to ride a 10-speed. Rusty and I would go out and train ahead of time. Now, when I was at the time, I was a stonemason, and stonemason work is hard work. And there were some good things about that. Back east, all the footings, all the work we did had footings, and the footings had to go below frost line. 5 before. And the frost line was 3 or 3.5 feet down, so you dug them all by hand. So it was brutal labor, but the good thing about that is I got to separate body and mind then. At any rate, so we're talking about Susie. Thank you. So she was young, inexperienced, never been away from home, didn't know how to ride a bike. We trained for this, and there was one patch where we went on this ride in the wintertime. And Susie, we encouraged Susie, come on, Susie, you got to go with us and get ready for this. You know, you got to learn how to ride intensely. So we came around the corner I think it was in Ramapo, about, 30 miles north of where we lived. And it was the north corner in the morning, and there was black ice. You guys know what black ice is? It just looks dark on the road, it's really ice. Susie wiped out. Now she was hurt, but not bad enough, but it really dampened her enthusiasm for training. So the first hill, once we get packed up and we go, the first hill, which is called First Mountain, and I'm giving away part of chapter 1. I get halfway up, and I turn around to see where Susie is, and she's way down at the bottom walking her bike up the hill. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a long summer. Well, Susie had, there was maybe a bunch of reasons. She had don't spoil anymore. Okay. So then she kept up with us. And after a while, she was right there with us. And she did everything we did. I'm being cautioned not to do spoilers. She became a lioness along the way. She became a fierce adult woman during the course of this trip. And I think a lot of people that read the book, especially the women who read the book that I know, were pulling for Susie because she was started out kind of in a deficit, and everybody wanted her to succeed, and she did. So
still in contact with Rusty and?
Oh yeah. So on Thursday night, yes, I have been. They have seen the book in many versions before now. Last two trips back east, we had reunions. They on Thursday night we had a virtual book launch and a Zoom launch, and Susie and Rusty were there. I made sure of that, and everybody loved seeing them and their impressions of me. So yeah, I'm still in touch with them. Okay. Oh yeah. So how did this bike trip change me? So one of the things that happens when you exercise, your brain waves change, and of course they change in yoga too, right, Rose? But if you think of long distance runners, you run a mile, or you run for an hour, I should say. Long distance runners, when they run for an hour, their brain waves enter theta state. It's a primal state of being. It's not so, I don't want to use the word cognitive, but you're not thinking thoughts anymore. You're just being. You're in a pure state of being. And we did this all day, every day. 8 to 12 hours every day. We were in theta state. And after a while, it changed our consciousness. We started to act like we were one person. The only time I've ever experienced that before was with my twins. We were like one person. We all knew what to do. We would finish each other's sentences at times. There was one spot in the trip when I had fallen way behind because I had a flat, and I think I lost the pump. So I had to get help, and I was probably 3 or 4 hours behind my bike mates, and I had to find them up the road. And we said, well, we'll meet up by the Tetons. That's as close. Well, when I found them, they were not in sight of the road at all. But I kind of had this feeling, and I started to go looking, and I found them right away. So there were things like that happened that were pretty magical. And so once you've experienced that, it's kind of like, super consciousness. Once you've experienced it, you can never go back. It's like you've been through that door, you know what it is. And so it changed my entire life. And I think Rusty and Susie feel similar. Would I encourage others to write a book of the story inside all of us? Yes, write. Write your thoughts down. There's a thing called StoryCorps. I listen to on National Public Radio. People tell their story of your dad. I think these are really important to do. Write down. I have the journals I told you I have. I have a bunch from before and a bunch after. We were 20-something. We just wrote in journals all the time. Someone I know still keeps a journal or a diary, which I've never read. So, but anyway, but you write your stories. There's life is full of this stuff, and to me, what this was about was it was a story that needed to be told. It's such an incredible story. People might think, what a tall tale. Is this all for real? Well, it is, and I have the journals to prove. Okay, what else? Anything else? How are we doing time now?
What was the easiest section to write? Most automatic section to write, least changes. Easiest section.
The easiest section of the book to write?
Yeah.
Oh boy. You have no idea. To write the first time, or
Least hard.
the thing is, that you write something the first time, it's easy. The easiest section was the first draft of the entire thing. In fact, for me, it wasn't writing, it was dictating, right? I had my journal, and there were times I had to use the jeweler's loop to read the words because they were in pencil on one of those little spiral pads, this size, and they get rubbed like this, and it rains and all that stuff, and so so the easiest section was the first draft. Sharon.
What did you think of that? When you wrote the journals, you were 24, and the 25
Yes, did you all hear that? Everybody hear that? You're exactly right. Those knucklehead sections are not in the book.
Really?
But you know, the other thing that was really cool, so as you quickly find out, this book, if you haven't read it yet, this book is in the present tense. And I do have extras for sale here for, I think I may have enough. But the book's in the present tense. And some people ask me, in fact, I was challenged on that right in the beginning. Why are you writing in the present tense? You know how hard that is? People don't do that. To me, it made the story more current. I brought you into a journey, and I kept you there the whole time, hopefully. And if it was in the past tense, it would sound like an old story.
And isn't that the way it was written? I mean, isn't that the way it was written? You were writing it
Yes.
as a journal.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're being
Exactly.
more true to the original.
I think so, although, you know, I wrote at the end of the day, so it might have said we did this, we did that. It was very narrative, chronological, and, you know, what do you call that? Reporting, you know, we did this. And so the other thing that happened, which was sort of magical for me, was that when I started to write this, I wasn't 24 anymore. So I took the rote draft of the book, and when I started to write it, I basically imbued it with my today voice. But like dialogue in the book, it's in the journal. You know, he broke the chain, get moving. That's in my journal. There's, you know, most of this dialogue is verbatim from the book. So that was really cool that I actually, and by the way, the other thing that happens when I had all this to remember, right? So in fact, at one point, Rusty said to me, David, how did you remember all this? I mean, this is 45 years ago. And I had the journals. But what happens is when you go through the journals and you're reliving in the journals, your brain starts to remember more. And one of the things I learned, you know, in the subconscious, they say if you hypnotize a brick mason, he can remember every brick he ever laid in that. And I remember when I was a stonemason, there are a lot of stones I remember laying them. But you tap into memory, it's, you know, and more things come to light. So that was very helpful.